have you heard people say, that's not real art? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about ugly art and why is it important in our world. Have you ever looked at Ken Doan's art and gone, my 5-year-old could paint that? Or did you look at Jackson Pollock's Blue Poles and go, you just slosh some paint on? What the heck? Well, we're going to talk about that today, why ugly art is important and why we love it. So when I say, let's make ugly art, what exactly do I mean? Well, what do I mean by that? Ugly doesn't mean it's bad art. Ugly doesn't actually mean that nobody likes it. Ugly just means it doesn't fit the normal conventions of what people view as good art. So it is not your hyper-realistic painting. It's different to that. When I say ugly art, we are challenging people's views on what makes good art. Because my version of ugly art actually makes some really good art. So when I talk about let's make ugly art, I found on my socials lately, people have been saying, yeah, but that's not ugly. That's actually, I really love that. Which is amazing. Keep giving me compliments. Who doesn't love compliments? But ugly art is what we're aiming to create. So what actually ends up happening when you go out to and aim to create something ugly, what you end up doing is you concentrate, your focus goes on to not the final product, because you know it's going to be ugly, and in your head that's okay. You've already come to terms with it's going to be ugly. So what you can do is you can actually focus on the process. The process becomes the fun part, the focus, and it's all about enjoying the process and challenging yourself to do as much ugliness as you can and changing things up, doing it differently. And what ends up happening is you explore it, explore different avenues for creating art, you explore different ways to make you feel better. I call it art as therapy. Well, it's actually what it's called, art as therapy. The creation of the art becomes your therapy, it becomes your meditation process. So that's what happens when we go out to make with the goal of making ugly art. But do you know what actually happens when you enjoy that process and you enjoy that journey from blank page to finished product without the worry of making it perfect? Sometimes, not all the time, but I find a lot of the time you make something beautiful. And that's what people are saying to me on social media. This is not ugly, this is actually quite beautiful. Amazing. And there's just so many benefits for you concentrating on that ugly art. So when I say let's make ugly art, I don't mean every single product's going to be ugly. But because in our head we've gone, we're going to make ugly art, our focus is shifted from the final product to the journey. And the more fun you have, and the more you explore it, I guarantee the better the product will be. So that's my first point. Ugly doesn't mean it's not beautiful. Now, this next point I want to make with ugly art, I've actually fallen into this next trap before as well. So if you're one of these people, do not stress. I've done it too. And actually, I'm going to give you an example of an artist that I used to not like and now love because I appreciate his art so much more. Have you ever had someone say, my 5-year-old child could do that, or my 5-year-old could do a better artwork than that? Have you heard that? Have you said that? I've certainly thought of it and I've gone, what is that? Ugh, I could do that. And I'm not a painter. Or, ugh, I could get my dogs to do, like, whatever. You get the point. What somebody is saying when they say that is actually a compliment, I think. Children are actually the most creative people in this world. they see this world in a very different light to adults. Because as adults, through schooling, and yeah, I reckon schooling's a big contributor to this, through schooling and life, we are taught to not be creative. So when people say, I'm just not a creative person, I guarantee as a child you were super creative, because every child has this freedom that results in a true free creativity. So for me, saying my child could do that is actually quite a compliment. And we don't do it, teachers don't do it on purpose. I'm a teacher. We don't do it on purpose. But because of the confines of the curriculum, this is a whole nother video for another day. But because of the confines of the curriculum, you don't have the time to allow children to just be creative and just to create. Because creativity, here's the next bombshell, creativity, it is about taking time. It's about giving yourself the space and the time to play. And teachers don't have the time to do that. What happens is we teach children that this artwork that we're all creating now, we're all going to create this beautiful artwork. Yeah, okay guys, we're going to do a step by step. Do this first, and I'm going to do this and do that. What we're actually teaching that child is, my art has to look like that. And if it doesn't look like that, then it's bad art. And it's just, oh, and you know what? I've done this myself in my classes. I've done this with kids, and it breaks my heart that I potentially have almost, if you can imagine it, creativity's in a bowl that's overflowing, and I essentially put some Glad wrap cling film over the top, and I'm constricting that creativity because we don't have time. We don't have time for that. So you're going to keep your creativity in, because we don't need that in our lives. Thank you. As adults, we've been taught, we've been conditioned subconsciously, unfortunately, that our art needs to look a particular way. So back to my original point. If someone says to you, my child could do that, that is like the best compliment, because what they're saying is you've unlearned all of that conditioning, all of those limiting beliefs up here, you've unlearned in order to create that art. And it's you take that as a compliment. So when they say, oh, my child could do that, you say thank you, because our children are the only ones up until a certain age that are truly creative. Ugly art is a mindset shift, not a final product. So this is basically very similar to my first point where I was saying about it's about the process, not the final destination. But essentially what we're saying with this is that it's about accepting that sometimes we get it wrong, or sometimes what we create is not great, is not good. And that's okay, because that's part of the process. So yes, what I create might look beautiful, but what I create might actually legitimately be quite ugly, that no one wants. But I'm getting in close because you need to hear this. Something you think is ugly, someone else will think is beautiful. I want you to think about that boyfriend or that girlfriend that you were like, oh no, not my type. And now they're with somebody who thinks they are beautiful. Exactly what I'm talking about. Ugliness, beauty is subjective. So that you don't get to decide what's ugly. I as the artist don't get to decide what's ugly and what's beautiful. You guys do. And I want you to hear that, something that I think's ugly, someone else is going to think is beautiful. So it's about this mindset shift, going from I need to make something that's beautiful for me, which is great. That is great. That's why we use our sketchbook, because our sketchbook is for us. A sketchbook is not for anyone else. It's not for anyone else to see, unless you want them to. You can share your sketchbook, no worries, but we use a sketchbook because that's just for us. It's our own visual journal. And if I think something's so ugly, I don't have to share it with anyone. So in my head, I need to remember a couple of things. These are the mindset shifts we need to do. All right, we're shifting from what's ugly for me is beautiful to someone else. I once had here's a saying of my mindset coach, Brianna May's amazing. She once said to me that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but you're going to be someone's shot of whiskey. And I went, oh dang, it's so true. It's so true. And I'm going to give you some examples in a minute of all these, what I'm talking about. So some of the mindset shifts that need to happen is this releasing perfectionism. You don't have to do a bird that looks exactly like the picture. And that's okay. That's okay. Some hyper-realistic artists out there are amazing. Beautiful. Buy their stuff if you want it. I don't think it's interesting like ugly art is. The mindset shifts that we want to happen is a focus away from perfectionism. Shifting us to, we have to make the perfect picture, to, I just want to make something interesting. And that's our goal. It's also a shift around the fear of failure. So many people have this fear of failure in their life because they're so worried about people judging. Because a fear of failure is actually not a fear of failing. It's a fear of what will happen when they fail. So if I fail, people will tell me my art is rubbish. And when I fail, this will happen. And when I do this, this will happen. So going, if this looks rubbish to me, it doesn't matter. And failing is just part of the process. I learned something today about resilience. So fear of failure comes in really nicely with this resilience model. Resilience is not a pleasant thing. Resilience is the presence of frustration. You've got somebody who wants to go from not knowing something to knowing something. Okay, these are my two bits. This journey in between is where you see the resilience. The resilience does not come with the knowing. The resilience is the in between. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to focus on the fact that we're going from not knowing to knowing. This middle process is what we're learning to love. So we're actually also building resilience. Because when we love this, if someone turns around and says, oh, my child could do that, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Good, off you pop then. Off you pop, here's a piece of paper. Go get your kid to do it. Because I want your child to know that it's okay to fail. Know what I mean? There's a bit of a shift that happens as well when we aim for ugly art. When I say to myself, all right, we're gonna go make some ugly art. I'm gonna go make some ugly art. What ends up happening is I take the pressure off myself. When you put pressure on yourself, okay, if I go, right, I'm gonna go make an amazing piece of artwork that's gonna sell and I'm gonna be really creative about it, suddenly that is putting this pressure on myself. That pressure acts like that cling wrap. It's constricting. It's keeping that creativity in. But we want that creativity. We want to rip that cling wrap off. And we want our creativity to fly out everywhere. So perfectionism is a cling wrap. The pressure to make something beautiful, cling wrap. That pressure, I find all the time, the more pressure I put on myself, the less likely I'm gonna do the stuff. Because in my head, that pressure is just, it's unnecessary. And it takes that focus off the journey, off the process, off that middle bit of resilience, the learning, the journey. It takes our focus off that, and suddenly we're back on looking at the final product, because I've suddenly gone, okay, I need to make money, so I need to make this beautiful piece of artwork that sells. So I'm back at looking at the final product, and guess what? It's not going to be creative. It's not going to be beautiful. Someone might still like it, but it's going to be restricting, and that's what we don't want. That we do not want that. I think my point of this is, the whole point of this video is that you don't have to make perfect art to make beautiful art. I'll say that again. You don't have to make perfect art to make beautiful art. I'm gonna give you my example now. So I've all my life never really liked Ken Doan's artworks. I have said the whole, a child could make that. But since I've started advocating for ugly art, I now love Ken Doan's artworks. Tea break. So I love his artworks now, and I actually use them as an example for when I'm teaching this to kids. Because I bring it up and I show them, because kids, we're conditioning kids that to teach them that if your drawing doesn't look exactly like the picture, then it's bad art. But it's not the case. So Ken Doan's my example all the time. So I bring up his website and I show the kids artworks. I say, guys, do you like this guy's art? And without a doubt, they all say yes, because they think that's the right answer. And then I turn around and I say, I don't really like it. And they all like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, not everyone is going to like your art. I said, but my whole life I've not really liked this guy's artworks, but let's have a look how much they sell for. And we have a look, and sometimes he's got one up there for like $10,000, $20,000. And you kind of go, and the kids are like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to like his art. I don't have to like it. But there are people out there who love it. And that's all that matters. His artworks don't look exactly like a photo of Sydney Harbour, but geez, they're creative. They've got amazing fun colours, and they look great on people's walls in their houses. He's a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. It's about the eye of the beholder. You know, you hear people say it all that, it's subjective. Making ugly art is healthy for your creativity, and that doesn't mean the product's going to be ugly. So here is your challenge now, right? You ready for this? I want you to go out and I want you to make some ugly art now. I want you to scribble. I want you to smudge. I want you to use your left hand. I want you to do blank contour. I want you to do all the things. Do it in your sketchbook. And if you love it, do it on a piece of paper to sell. I dare ya. It might be amazing. I want you to go make ugly art. I want you to tag me in it. So tag me, Mace_made on Instagram. Use the hashtag Let's Make Ugly Art. Do all those things over on Instagram. Let me know what you want me to have a look at. I would love, love, love to see all your ugly art, or not so ugly art. Entirely up to you. If you're really stuck for ideas, here's an idea for a video where we do blind contour drawing. It's such a good way to loosen up and just get ugly. Just get ugly. Get ugly. Do it.